Russia is a long-term threat to the whole Euro-Atlantic territory, believes the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He stressed this after a meeting with US President Trump in Washington on Thursday.
We all agree in NATO that Russia is the long-term threat to NATO territory, to the whole of the Euro-Atlantic territory.
Search and rescue operations have concluded in the aftermath of Russia's attack on Kyiv on Thursday morning, in which 12 people were killed and 87 were injured. This was reported by the State Emergency Service in a Telegram post on April 25th. On April 24, Russia attacked the capital city with drones and missiles, including ballistic, targeting residential areas.
As of now, 12 dead were confirmed. Fortunately, we did not find more dead under the rubble. The search operation is over. We now start reconstruction work.
In Kyiv, April 25th was declared a day of mourning for all the victims of Russia's strike the previous day. Since morning, people have been coming to the site of the attack with flowers, candles and toys. One of the killed was a 17-year-old boy. 10 children are among the wounded. By escalating the attacks, the Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin shows he doesn't want peace. This was stated by the EU foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas during her visit to Moldova. At a press briefing with the Moldovan president in Chisinau, she stressed on the importance of the continuous support to Ukraine.
It is clear that we want peace. Moldovans want peace, Ukrainians want peace, Europeans want peace. But the reality is that Putin is escalating the attacks. And it's making it clear that he doesn't want peace. It takes two to want peace. It only takes one to want war. We have to keep supporting Ukraine, that they are able to defend themselves.
American conservative commentator and co-founder of Daily Wire Media Ben Shapiro sat down with President Zelenskyy in the center of Kyiv for a two-part special titled My Journey to Ukraine and My Interview with Zelenskyy. Speaking in front of the historic St. Sophia Cathedral in Ukraine's capital, Zelenskyy addressed questions on his recent high-profile meeting with President Trump and ongoing U.S. military support.
We consider the United States as a strong strategic partner with an influence, and we would really like to have the peace through strength that would be used towards Russia so that the force would be applied towards Russia, because they are the ones who are the aggressor.
Before the interview came out, posting on his Truth social network, Trump criticized the Kremlin leader Putin for the overnight missile and drone strikes against Kyiv that killed 12 people. However, earlier Trump lauded Russia as a party that was ready for peace. Zelenskyy stated that it's important to have a common understanding that Russia is the aggressor, not Ukraine.
You shouldn't be saying that Ukraine started this war. I believe this is painful for our people to hear, and this is why we respond in this way. We're talking about the dignity of our country. We have demonstrated that we are ready to protect our dignity in any situation. I'm doing that right now as a president. We have clearly demonstrated that in the beginning of the war, which is still ongoing. We have only one enemy, Russia and Putin. And that is why, even if we're talking in a diplomatic environment, everything that is related to the Ukraine's dignity, I will always defend it. This is my job. I'm the president. I'm the guarantor of the Constitution of Ukraine.
The second part of the interview is expected to be released shortly after the first installment on Friday. The United Kingdom announced a new list of 150 trade sanctions targeting Russia's military supply chain, reported Politico on April 24th. The measures, effective immediately, aim to choke the Russian war machine and save Ukrainian lives, said the UK Sanctions Minister Stephen Doughty. Among the banned exports to Russia are gaming console controllers, citing their use in piloting drones on the front lines in Ukraine, technology transfers essential for manufacturing high-priority components, and sophisticated software used to scout and develop oil and gas wells, emphasized Doughty. He added that the sanctions also include exports of chemicals, electronics, machinery and metals, aiming to restrict the Kremlin's ability to wage and sustain the war. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the Trump administration has outlined a path to peace for both Ukraine and Russia, and now it's up to both sides to say yes. During a meeting between President Trump and the Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre at the Oval Office, Rubio also addressed Russia's recent missile strike on Kyiv, calling it a stark reminder of why ending the war is so urgent.
First of all, what was put before our partners was options to discuss about things that it would take to end a war. This war is endable. Both sides just have to agree to it. We've shown them a pathway forward. We've discussed those ideas. It was a good meeting yesterday. There'll be good meetings over the weekend. We've shown them the finish line. We need both of them to say yes. But what happened last night with those missile strikes should remind everybody of why this war needs to end.
President Trump also commented on the Russian massive strike on Ukraine's capital, saying that he wasn't happy. He stressed that Washington is putting a lot of pressure on Moscow.
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango, and you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal too.
Trump also stated that Washington wants to end the war quickly and has made a lot of progress, adding that the next few days will be important. At least 3 people, including a child, were killed and another 14 were injured in a Russian attack on Pavlohrad in the Dnipropetrovsk region. According to the head of the regional military administration, 3 children aged 6, 15 and 17 are among the wounded. 5 people were hospitalized, 3 of them in serious condition. Russian forces attacked the city with drones, targeting a 5-story residential building. The missile that took the lives of 12 people in Kyiv was possibly made in North Korea, said President Zelenskyy. Hours after the strike, on his Telegram page, Zelenskyy came out with a statement that Ukrainian experts were reviewing evidence collected at the site of the attack that targeted a residential block and buried residents alive. According to the president, if the information proves to be true, it would mean yet another case of Pyongyang and Moscow's illegal partnership that serves to wreak havoc and terror across Ukraine and claim innocent lives. Finally, Zelenskyy once again called for a full and immediate ceasefire, along with real diplomatic pressure on Putin to prevent further killings. 622 children have been killed in Ukraine since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. This figure, accurate on April 25th morning, was published by the General Prosecutor's Office. At the same time, more than 1,924 were injured. According to the statement, children were most affected in the Donetsk, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. Just yesterday, a Russian strike took the life of a 17-year-old boy in Kyiv, with 10 more children injured in the attack. A 14-year-old girl was also wounded in Bezlyudivka village in the Kharkiv region. The U.S. Special Envoy Witkoff met with Russia's leader Putin in Moscow. Their talks were confirmed by the Kremlin spokesperson, with footage later being published. In the video, Witkoff and Putin are seen shaking hands and then sitting at the table for negotiations. Witkoff's visit to Russia comes a day after President Trump addressed Putin through his Truth social network, stressing the need to make a peace deal. The Ukrainian delegation at this week's talks in London reaffirmed the principles on which peace talks are based to their allies. This is according to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Georgy Tikhy, who came out with a statement on Friday. The principles, among others, include that Ukraine will never recognize any part of its territory as Russian.
You know perfectly well these 3 principled positions, which were repeated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs Andriy Sybiha and other government officials. First, Ukraine will never recognize any part of its territory as Russian. Second, Ukraine will never agree to any restrictions on its armed forces, the defense forces of Ukraine, the capabilities of the defense industry or military assistance from the partners. Third, no third country has the right to veto Ukraine's choice of alliances and partnerships. These are 3 principled positions that Ukraine adheres to.
A Russian Su-30SM multirole fighter jet has been destroyed in a suspected act of sabotage at the Rostov-on-Don Central Air Base, highlighting growing domestic opposition to Putin's regime, reported the Ukrainian Defense Intelligence on Thursday. The Su-30SM aircraft can be used to gain air and ground supremacy using a wide range of weapons, including but not limited to guided and unguided bombs with a total weight up to 8 tons. The DIU highlighted the act of burning such a jet as politically symbolic, illustrating that even in the Russian heartland, resistance is taking root. A Russian Shadow Fleet vessel carrying stolen grain from the temporarily occupied Crimea was seized on Friday in the Black Sea. This was reported by the Ukrainian State Border Guard Service, who along with the security service managed to stop the ship with around 5,000 tons of stolen Ukrainian crops on board. It was revealed that the vessel was flying an Asian country flag, while the documents and equipment found on board showed the true motive behind the cargo transportation, wrote the Ukrainian Border Guard.